You better be ready because we are going to dive in one of the most inspiring football stories you'll ever hear. Victor Osimhen. The name strikes fear into defenders across Europe. But before he became the star striker for Napoli, before he carried Nigeria's football dreams on his shoulders, his life was a battle for survival. Growing up in the streets of Lagos, every day was a fight, not just for a football, but for food, for survival. He ran barefoot on dusty roads, playing with makeshift balls, dreaming of stadium lights while selling sachet water to make ends meet. But how did he go from struggling to find food to becoming one of the deadliest goal scorers in the world? Stay locked in because this story is filled with heartbreak, rejection, and ultimately, triumph. Let's rewind the clock and take you to where it all began. Before the fame, before the roaring stadiums, Victor Osimhen was just a young boy in Olusosin, Lagos, one of the busiest and toughest neighborhoods in Nigeria. Life here was relentless. It wasn't just about making it in football, it was about making it through the day. Victor was the last of 6 children, and his family struggled to put food on the table. His mother passed away when he was still a child, leaving his father to take care of the family with almost nothing. There were days when food was scarce, and the only way to survive was to hustle. To support his family, young Victor sold sachet water and newspapers in the chaotic streets of Lagos. Imagine that, a kid running through traffic, weaving between cars, yelling out to customers, all while dreaming of one day making it in football. But football wasn't just a hobby for him, it was his escape. The streets of Lagos became his training ground. No fancy cleats, no official footballs, just raw passion. He played barefoot on rocky fields, chasing every opportunity to touch a ball. Despite his struggles, one thing never changed: his hunger to play. Every night, he dreamed of stadiums filled with thousands of fans, of scoring goals, of making it big. But dreaming is one thing, making it happen, that's a whole different battle. So how did a street vendor turn into a future football superstar? One lucky break can change everything, but first, he had to fight for it. First steps into football. Osimhen's life changed the day he stepped onto an actual football pitch. Not just the rough, dusty streets of Lagos, but a real field where scouts were watching. He started playing in local competitions, and despite his small frame, his speed and determination stood out. He wasn't just playing for fun, he was playing for survival. Every match was a chance to prove himself, a chance to be noticed, a chance to escape poverty. One day, that chance finally came. He was spotted by the Ultimate Strikers Academy, a grassroots football club in Nigeria known for developing young talent. This was his first real step into professional football. At the academy, he trained harder than ever before. He knew that talent wasn't enough. He had to outwork everyone else. His hunger, both literal and metaphorical, drove him to push past exhaustion. Even when his legs burned from endless drills, even when his body screamed for rest, he kept going. Football wasn't just a sport to him, it was his ticket out of hardship. He played with intensity, with purpose, with something to prove. Coaches took notice. His raw potential, combined with his relentless work ethic, made him one of the academy's standout players. Then in 2015, everything changed. The Nigerian U17 national team was preparing for the FIFA U17 World Cup, and Osimhen got a shot at making the squad. This was his golden opportunity, the kind that only comes once in a lifetime. And he didn't waste it. He trained relentlessly, fighting for a spot in the team. When the final squad was announced, his name was on the list. The poor kid from Lagos, the boy who once sold water to survive, was about to represent Nigeria on the world stage. But no one, absolutely no one, was ready for what he was about to do next. Breakthrough moment. The FIFA U17 World Cup in 2015 was where everything changed for Victor Osimhen. He didn't just show up, he dominated. From the very first match, Osimhen was on fire. He scored in every single game Nigeria played in the tournament. His pace, strength, and killer instinct in front of goal made him unstoppable. Defenders couldn't handle him. Goalkeepers feared him. The world was starting to take notice. By the time Nigeria reached the final, Osimhen had already made history. He scored 10 goals in the tournament, the most ever in a single U17 World Cup. No one had ever done that before. Not Messi, not Ronaldo, not even the greatest African strikers. In the final against Mali, Osimhen delivered again. Nigeria won the tournament, securing their 5th U17 World Cup title, and Osimhen was crowned the top scorer. He also won the silver ball as the tournament's second-best player. That was the moment the world realized this kid was special. After the tournament, European clubs came knocking. Arsenal, Anderlecht, and Wolfsburg were all interested. Big teams were calling. He had the chance to play in England, Belgium, or Germany. But Osimhen made a decision that surprised many. He chose Wolfsburg, a Bundesliga club in Germany, not the flashiest club, not the biggest offer, but the one he felt was right for his development. At just 17 years old, he packed his bags and left Nigeria for Europe. He left behind everything he knew, his family, his friends, the streets where he grew up. The boy who once sold water to survive was now boarding a flight to a new life, a new challenge, and an uncertain future. But Europe wouldn't be easy. In fact, his toughest battles were still ahead. Challenges in Europe. Arriving in Europe was a dream come true, but reality hit hard. Life in Germany was nothing like what Osimhen had imagined. The weather was freezing, the language was unfamiliar, and the competition was brutal. At Wolfsburg, things didn't go as planned. He struggled with injuries, barely got game time, and found himself fighting just to make the squad. The boy who had dominated in the U17 World Cup was now sitting on the bench, watching from the sidelines. Doubts started creeping in. Was he really good enough? Had he made the wrong choice? The European football world was ruthless. If you didn't perform, you were forgotten. Then, disaster struck. A series of injuries kept him out for months. Every time he tried to fight back, another setback came. His confidence was shattered, and in 2018, Wolfsburg decided to let him go. No European club wanted to take a chance on him. He went on trial at clubs in Belgium and even had a medical at Zulte Waregem, but they all rejected him. He wasn't just struggling to play, he was struggling to find a team willing to give him a contract. For the first time, Osimhen's dream seemed to be slipping away. The same kid who had once been the best U17 striker in the world was now one step away from football obscurity. But giving up, that wasn't in his DNA. During this difficult period, he stayed motivated, he trained harder, studied the game, and refused to believe his journey was over. He had come too far to stop now. Finally, Belgian side Charleroi offered him a lifeline, a loan deal with an option to buy. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a chance, and that was all he needed. What happened next? Osimhen shocked the world, becoming a superstar at Napoli. At Charleroi, Osimhen came back to life. Given the chance to start regularly, he did what he does best: score goals. In just one season, he bagged 20 goals in 36 appearances, proving that his talent had never disappeared. Charleroi didn't hesitate to trigger the buy option in his contract, making his move permanent. But Osimhen's rise wasn't stopping there. His performances caught the attention of Lille, a top club in France's Ligue 1, and in 2019, they signed him for 12 million euros. And in France, he exploded. Osimhen became one of the most feared strikers in Ligue 1, scoring 18 goals in his debut season. He had pace, power, and a relentless hunger for goals. He wasn't just back, he was better than ever. His movement was sharper, his finishing was deadlier, and his confidence was at an all-time high. Then came the moment that changed everything. In 2020, Napoli broke their transfer record, paying 70 million euros to bring Osimhen to Italy. He became the most expensive African player of all time. The pressure was immense, the expectations were sky high, and in Serie A, defenders were tougher than ever. His first season was a challenge. Injuries, COVID-19, and adaptation struggles slowed him down. At times, critics questioned if he could handle the pressure. But just like always, he fought back. And when he found his rhythm, he was unstoppable. By 2022 to 2023, Osimhen was leading Napoli to their first Serie A title in over 30 years. He became the league's top scorer, silencing critics and proving himself as one of the best strikers in the world. His goals weren't just numbers on a stat sheet, they were history in the making. From selling water in Lagos to lifting trophies in Europe, Osimhen's story is football's ultimate comeback. And his journey, it's far from over. Conclusion and legacy. Victor Osimhen's story is more than just football. It's about resilience, sacrifice, and the unbreakable will to succeed. He didn't have the luxury of an easy start. He didn't grow up in a football academy with elite facilities. He grew up on the streets of Lagos, selling water to survive. He faced hunger, rejection, and injuries that could have ended his career before it even began. But he never gave up. And now, he's not just a footballer, he's an inspiration. Osimhen is proof that talent alone isn't enough. You need grit, determination, the ability to rise every time you fall. His journey from street vendor to Serie A champion has inspired millions, especially in Africa, where young footballers dream of following in his footsteps. His impact reaches beyond football. He's a role model, a symbol of hope, a reminder that no dream is too big, no obstacle too great. But his story isn't finished. He's already a hero in Napoli. He's already a legend in Nigeria. And now the world is watching to see how far he can go. Will he become one of the greatest African strikers of all time? Will he win the Ballon d'Or? One thing is certain, Victor Osimhen is far from done. And if his past has taught us anything, it's this: no matter how tough the road is, never stop believing. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more incredible football stories. Who should we cover next? Let us know in the comments.